Today we're going to be talking to Dana Jones, my brother. I'm Dave Jones, and we're going to be talking about sugaring. And Dana's going to explain to me as best he can on how to do maple syrup sugaring in Wayne, Maine. So what do you want to tell us about this tree to start with? What's the best tree for...
Well, there are three different types of maple that I typically tap. The premier one that has the highest concentration of sugar is the sugar maple, or also called the rock maple, Acer saccharum for the sugar. There's also red maple and silver maple, but if you can find a sugar maple, that would be the best bet because you get the most syrup from the amount of sap that you collect. This one is my favorite tree, Nakahoma. It's from the Abenaki. I've been tapping it for 4 or 5 years now, and it's been a good producer.
How does one tap a tree?
Well, if you look on this one, you can actually see right here a tap from my previous year. The tree has a mechanism called compartmentalization of disease in trees. The tree will excrete an enzyme to protect itself, and it will heal that particular wound so that you can tap the tree multiple years. Some trees, people have been tapping them for 20 years. They'll have a whole series of taps on one tree, and it doesn't seem to, if it's done correctly, it doesn't bother the tree. Tree has to be of a certain size. The general recommendation is don't tap a tree if it's less than 10 inches in diameter. Some people will put 2 taps on a tree. I've tried this. This is a pretty good sized tree, so this last year I did that. I had a tap on this side and I had another tap on that side, so it was producing for 2 collection spots. Some people put 3 taps on, but more than that's probably not advisable.
Okay.
For the health of the tree.
So how do we do it? How do we tap it?
Well, you got to have a drill.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you're old school, you have one of those hand drills. Obviously, I use a battery-powered drill. There's a special bit that allows you to do a very clean exit and entrance, so that there's as little damage to the tree as possible. Typically, you would drill in about 2 inches into the tree, pull back, just do it once, and check the shavings, the wood that comes out. If it's nice and white and pulpy, that means that you're into the correct sap carrying capillaries. Mm-hmm. If it's brown and more brittle, you probably should find a different tap spot. There is a thing called stain wood. So from here, in other words, I wouldn't want to tap, too close to this or above it, because if we were to take a cross section of this piece of tree, you would see that the tree is trying to heal itself by building harder wood right in this area. And that's called stain or stain wood, and you want to avoid tapping in multiple years close to that. So you stay like about 2 inches to either side, or 10 inches or a foot above to avoid that stain wood. Mm-hmm. Put the tap in, pull it out, only do it once. Then you use something like this if you're more modern. If you want to be more traditional, then you'd have spiles that are made out of metal. Some of them, hundreds of years old. Typically, I started with this, which was a 5/16 tubing. Recent studies from the University of Vermont and other places have determined that a smaller diameter actually increases the sap production. So I'm going to transition this season to these smaller taps.
All right.
You put the the head in here. You got a hammer, you tap it gently until it seats. And if you're tapping at the right time, as soon as you take the drill bit out of there, you'll actually see the sap start to flow. When I first started doing it, I was using milk jugs, 1 gallon milk jugs, which works, but it is quite labor intensive. So, this season I'm going to try tap lines. So essentially I'd find a row or a group of trees called a sugar bush, and I would set up tap lines down to a single collection point, and it would make collecting the sap a lot easier because you'd only have to do it many fewer times than normally I would do it.
When is sap collecting time?
It varies according to the weather, obviously. Usually, like this past year, it was mid to late February. The season usually lasts about 4 to 6 weeks. In Maine, MapleSyrup Sunday is the second Sunday in March. There's a lot of towns have various festivities around that particular day. I'm not going to transfer them, I'm just going to just do partials.
That it?
Oh, we got the other one up there. To the sugar shack.
Okay, here we go. Yeah. Just one?
Just one. I'm surprised. I thought the other one would be filled up. The way it was flowing yesterday. Huh.
Huh.
Maybe I missed that one.
Got a nice rhythm to it.
Should put a relief hole so it doesn't do that.
Yeah. Because it's getting a bit.
faster.
Right.
So on the one hand, it's more sealed so you don't get bugs in it, but on the other hand, it's harder to pour it.
Well, you could design your own. Drill a hole for it, cap it off.
So each of these is 44 gallons and they're filled. And a little bit of ice.
Yeah.
You hear the ice in it?
Yeah.
What I'll do is I'll fill up the pan and then I'll fill up the brew kettle and then I'll start boiling, and when that starts to drop down I'll crack open that valve and let a little bit drip in there over time.
Yeah.
So it's constantly being repressed, but it's not. If you dump a lot in there at once, it'll cool the sap down, but if you do it a little bit at a time, it doesn't drop the temperature.
Got this down to a science.
So after we've collected all the sap, recommendation is to boil it as soon as you can, because it will go bad. Probably if you think of it the same way as if you left milk out on the counter, within a couple of days or a week it's going to go bad. Same thing with the sap. So recommendation is to get it boiling as soon as you collect it. Quicker the better. A lot of times you'll see people when they're at the collection sites, they'll pack snow around the collection containers to keep the sap cool. And I'll bring it in here. I have my evaporator set up right here next to where my wood source is. Get the wood stove going, the evaporator going, put the sap in, put a chair here, sit down, put my feet up, watch it.
How much of this wood is going to be burnt next season?
Oh, I probably went through, probably not a cord. I think probably less than a cord.
So that would be like maybe half of that section.
Yeah, maybe half of that section.
Right. Okay.
You can boil down maybe, using the evaporator, you can boil down maybe 4 or 5 gallons an hour. I have it set up so that I have a boil kettle that kind of drips the sap in, so it's sort of continuously, as the water evaporates, new sap is added until it gets to the point where I realize it's time to finish it, and then I bring it inside and hope that my wife doesn't yell at me for putting too much moisture into the kitchen.
And what's the ratio? Let's go through that.
If you tap the best tree, which is the sugar maple, the estimates are probably 40 to 1 or 50 to 1. So if I collect 50 gallons of sap and boil it down, I'll get 1 gallon of syrup. The red maple and the silver maple may be up to like 60 to 1.
Okay.
Figure a gallon. If you had just a gallon of syrup, a gallon of sap, and you boiled it down, you get like 2.5 ounces.
For the uninitiated, that seems very labor intensive.
I have used that phrase, labor intensive.
Okay.
But it's a hobby.
It's a hobby. It's a hobby. We'll be back next year, and we'll actually see the operation in operation. So we're looking forward to that.
Good.
Good. You're on.
All right, so this evaporator pan is somewhat special in that it has 3 different compartments. And you can see on here, there's a little cutout. There's one over here you can't see from where you're at. But what happens is the sap boils here, goes through here, comes down here, goes through here, and comes out there. So it's like continuously moving the lighter syrup to the denser syrup until eventually I open up that spigot and take out the almost ready to use syrup into that pan. Time to tapping the tree, if you wanted to, I suppose you could go to the hardware store and just buy a drill bit, but I wouldn't recommend it because this particular bit is specifically designed to cut a nice, clean, clear hole through the wood and eject all the wood shavings so that when you put the tap in, everything's going to flow nice and smoothly.
Having the right tools.
And just for your edification, this is what happens when you don't take care of your equipment.
Krusty says.
Krusty says, take care of your stuff.
When I get pancakes, I got maple magic from Maine.
Okay.